after I finished my last book, which was on the Arab countries, I realized that I had missed out a very important component of the developing countries, and that was the non-urban population. So I kept on thinking that the story that happens in Mumbai is not the story that will happen in the non-urban areas of India, where 70% of the population lives. Story that happened in Shanghai is not the story of many of the small villages in China, where the people may be totally different. So collectively, then what I did there is I came back home after my fourth book, and I started looking at the data where most of the non-urban population was living. And it so turns out that there are 3.4 billion people, almost half of the world population, which is non-urban. Among the developed world, the United States has the largest non-urban rural population. So I decided to visit the top 10 countries with a rural population. Well, rural consumers, interesting enough, the pace of life is very different than what you'll be in an urban setting. And there may not be enough infrastructure. For example, electricity tends to be a major issue in many of these countries. If you don't have the electricity, you may not have access to many of the other appliances, and or you may have a television, but most of the time it may not work. Even the companies may have a difficult time in approaching you, in the rural consumers, I mean, because the physical structure to ship the product may not exist. Economy of scale may not make it possible to actually market the products to them. And sometimes there may not be any actually physical stores available, or maybe very small stores available. Other thing that happens there with the non-urban rural population there is that they don't have a steady, not all of them, but quite a number of them, especially if in the agriculture sector, they may not have a steady flow of income. So it really depends on the harvest cycle. So for example, in countries, South Asian countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, they have 3 different cycles. And so these companies have to pay attention to when do these people have the money. My honest answer there is I write these books for myself. My story started, I would say, back in 1990s, when I got a phone call from a friend of mine, a former colleague of mine at the Wharton School, saying that that we have received an invitation to give a talk to a group of developing countries of the United Nations. And I said, what is the topic? He said, the topic is that how can we stop developing countries from begging? I couldn't understand really the topic, that how can we stop developing countries from begging? I said, we are marketing people. What are we supposed to stay on this topic? We are not economists, especially we are not development economists. So it so turns out, then we talked among ourselves, and finally the only conclusion that we could come up was that maybe these guys want us to come and talk about entrepreneurship. You cannot call 86% of the people in this world beggars. We won't survive. Our companies won't survive. They may not spend as much money as we do. They may not be as rich as we do. But they need medicine. They need food. They need uniforms for their kids. They need shoes. They need infrastructure. They need books. They may need computers, not the type one that we have. So then I decided to educate myself that who are these 86% of the people. So that led me to 70, 80 countries. So after the 86% solution, then I visited many countries in Africa, both North and Sub-Sahara. That led me to actually think a little bit more about the religion, because I really wanted to understand what's going on. So that led me to visit 19 of the 22 Arab League countries, and that led me to the new book, which is on the on the rural consumers in the developing countries. For example, I did not realize until I visited some of the small towns, villages in India, that 60% of the gold in India is bought not by the urban consumers, but the non-urban consumers, rural consumers. So one would think that these rural consumers do not have very high income, but the fact of the matter there is that gold still tends to be a very important item for them. Ramadan, for example, a lot of these people have their relatives who are living in Middle East or Europe, and they like to send some gifts back to their the parents or families during the Ramadan time. So many of the items, like for example motorcycles, the cars, are actually bought during the Ramadan time because it's also a holy time. And if you want to buy expensive items, you would rather buy during the holy time. But many of the people would like to gift motorcycle, for example, to their brothers and sisters. So a lot of these things actually work in a very interesting way for the rural areas where you may not see that in the urban areas. Well, one of the things that I have discovered through my travels is that there is a common denominator among all of us, the rich countries, poor countries, and that is the mother's emotions. A mother in Austin, Texas, is as passionate about her family and her babies as a mother in a small village in Ethiopia. When they see the rashes on their babies' bottoms, a mother in Austin is not any different from the mother in any small village, for example, in even Bangladesh. So these emotions, the mother's emotions, are very universal. And the companies who have understood these emotions, thank you very much, they're doing very well. So in my opinion, what I'm suggesting is that they have a new group called R10. So this will be a group of the 10 countries with the largest rural population, almost about 70% or 67 to 70% rural population, and they have a lot more to learn from each other. So I'm suggesting that these people actually start a new group. I'm also suggesting that they have an annual summit where anybody, anywhere in the world, is working on an innovation, be that being the banking industry, be that being pharmaceutical industry, be that being education, that in summit, just like we have the electronics, the conference in Las Vegas, that they also have this conference, the summit, where people from all over the world to come to showcase what technologies, what solutions they have come up with to solve the problems of the rural world. And my conjecture there is the country that will benefit the most will be the United States. By focusing on this rural 10, we can really serve this world in a very positive way, where we can help not only these countries but ourselves also, and uplift the lives of 3 billion people on this planet.